In Chapter 3 Part 1 I'll be creating a skybox using an awesome little program called Spacescape. The download link is available in the description. Now I've sped up this portion of the video as all I was doing was simply altering numbers and sliders for approximately 30 minutes until I was happy with an end result. I encourage you to play around with the tool if you're looking for a space-based skybox. All I'm doing through this sped up section is simply adding layers on top of other layers of various different types of stars. Some of them are big nebula noise masks, which simply look like large dust clouds. Others are lots of point lights, billboard stars, as it's referred to in the tool itself, are the larger stars, and as you can see there I'm popping some in now. Tried to keep to the same kind of colour schemes, purples and blues, and there are some whites in there as well as kind of to pick out as a differential. Towards the end you'll start to see, here we go, a very large bright blue nebula that will tile very nicely through the entire scene, and there's a lot of focused stars in that particular area. I added some red ones just for contrast. Only a few of them. Then we'll save it all out, and then we'll hop over to Unity. Now back into normal time. We will load up our texture. Now I've already added all of these into the texture folder, as you can see, and it saves it out in 6 different texture files: left, right, front, back, up and down. And then what we're going to do is we're going to come over into create a new material in our materials folder. We're going to name this skybox, and then what we do is we're going to come down here and we're going to change the shader type. And what we actually want is in render effects in skybox, and then you notice it now adds 6 different channels, let's call them, to add the different types of texture. So if we start adding these in, so the first one is front. So if we take a look, we have front. Pop that one. Oh, and let's go back into the skybox material. There we go. Right, back to front. Drop that in, and now the back, the left, and the right, and then the up and the down. So in this case the top and bottom as it saves out. There we go. Let's make this bigger so we can see it. Doesn't quite look right. Let's pop it into the scene and take a look. We should be able to see it a bit easier there. So what we need to do is look at our render settings. So up here, no, that's build settings. Render settings, there we go. And then what we do, come over here to where it says skybox and material, and we're actually just going to add in our skybox. So that's looking quite nice. Go to scene, and then we turn on the skybox, and oh, there's a bit of clipping issue down at the bottom corner, and at the sides they don't look like they're tiling. Okay, so let's go in the skybox and let's just swap the left and the right. And see how that fixes it. That now looks good. So the quality is not exactly how I would like. It looks a little bit pixelated. Now it was saved out at 512 by 512, but that hasn't got a nice fidelity to me. So I think I'm going to save that out as a larger file format and re-import it. So come back in here because it looks much nicer in here. So if we export it and we actually load that as 1024, we could go higher. No, we'll stick with 1024. I'll save that out. Go back to Unity. Re-import it. That looks better. There we go, that's re-imported it all. Yeah. Still compressed, but still looks pretty good. Let's play it. Yep, much better. Happy with that. Fantastic. Does look nice. Now we just need to get the gameplay so we can actually rotate around the skybox instead of just being stuck going forwards. In Chapter 3 Part 2 we will be creating placeholder particle effects. Again, I've sped up this section of the video as most of the time is taken up with back and forth adjusting numbers. If anybody wants a more in-depth tutorial of particle creation, please leave a comment below. The first particle effect I create here is a volumetric star field, which encompasses the entire player area. Is a very simple spherical particle system that has a very slow movement. Gives the impression that the player is actually travelling forward within a dense star field. The second particle effect I create here is an effect that will give the rocket ship the impression it's travelling at great speed. It's the same kind of effect of travelling into a point in space, so travelling forward towards a perspective point. This one, the third one, is actually an exhaust system. So this one is actually positioned on the back of the rocket ship and is actually parented to the rocket ship itself. And then one thing we do need to change on this is the simulation space to world. So as you turn around, it'll actually spin with you. We've added some colour here just to give it some variation and to make it look impressive. We're also going to add a second exhaust effect. And the second exhaust effect you'll see is actually a burst effect, so that every so often it looks like it's coughing and spluttering. And we'll just invert the colours on that particular one. And you can just see there, we'll actually taper it off so it gets smaller as it comes out. In Chapter 3 Part 3 we'll be improving our particle systems by including a texture sequence which will give the impression of a 3D animation on each particle. First of all, I'm in the Assets folder, in our Resources, and we're actually in the Texture folder itself. And I'm just going to transfer this texture that I've made in Photoshop in here. Now this is of a 4x4 rotating star that was rendered out in 3D Max. And we're going to create a new material. I'm going to put Star Sequence. We've actually created that in the wrong folder, so let's just move that into Materials. Pop into Materials, and then we just need to choose the texture to go into it, so it's going to be the Star Sequence. And you'll notice it's actually got a white. We actually want that to be see-through, so what we need to do is come down to Particles. Oh, no, Particles. Particles, there we are, Particles. And set it as Additive, and that will add in the alpha and subtract out the white for us. Now notice at the moment it looks like there are 4x4 stars on there. What we actually want to do is only render out one at a time, but we're going to render them out as if they are the frames of a traditional animation. So we're going to go into our particle system and we're going to scroll down to the bottom here and we're actually going to go to Texture Sheet Animation, and we are going to add a graph. Where's the graph? The curves. Oh, there it is. Okay, yep. Add a frame over time, and then we're actually going to change the particle into the star sequence itself. Now, as you can see, if you can just about see, we're actually emitting the whole texture sheet. So that's 4x4 in total. So what we're going to do is going to come over here and we're going to set the tiles to 4 and 4. And then if we take a look now, I'll just quickly do it on this one as well. So 4 and 4, Open the renderer, change the material, and that's starting to look better. Looking much better. Okay, so we've got a couple of other things we need to do. So let's change these ones as well, because we want all the stars to look roughly the same. So we'll add the star sequence in there. Just up the size a little bit. Oh, not that big. I want to be able to see that they're stars, but let's just go down until we're happy. Okay, one's okay. We'll set it to animate as well. We need to create the right particle. There we go. Change the size on these as well. We don't want these to be too big. There we have it. Nice looking star field and a nice looking exhaust. That U1 script is a little bit dark for my liking. In Chapter 3 Part 4 we will be scripting in a collision particle system. We'll start by adding the texture in. So we're just going to copy this and paste it. Again, another texture that was created in both 3ds Max and then put together in Photoshop, and this is of a rock spinning on the spot. This is going to create our debris. So we're going to create a material first off, and we're going to call it Asteroid Debris. And then we're going to add the texture. So we're just going to change this shader. Going to try additive multiply. Not tried this one. Nope, that's not what I wanted. That's not what I thought it was. Sorry. Let's just alter that. Try alpha blended. That's what I'm thinking of. I believe so. Okay, we're going to be. We'll leave it with that. And now what we're going to do is take a look over in our scene view, and we will take a look at one of our asteroids, and we'll create a new particle system. I'm going to rename it. We'll name it something appropriate. And then we're going to change some of these details. So the first things we're going to do is we're going to come down here and we're going to add the correct material. Again, we haven't actually ticked the texture sheet animation yet, so we'll just turn that on and then set it to the correct dimensions. 8 by 4. And then we need to change how many times this spins. Let's try 10. Looks okay for the time being. Now let's just change some other things. Let's take a look up here. Let's change the size. Now we're going to want to have some random sizes. We don't want everything to look the same because it doesn't look realistic. Same with rotation. Looks a bit better. Set it to world. And then what we will do is we'll make this a burst, so 0 rate, and then we'll change the amount of particles to do it in a burst to 50. And then we'll change the shape to a sphere. Reduce the radius down. We'll change the size over life, and we'll make this a graph. Make them get smaller as they travel out. We'll give them a rotation over lifetime as well, which will make a random. So they'll spin as they're going along as well. Let's create a prefab. Call it the same thing. And then what we'll do is we'll actually come across the hierarchy. We'll slide that off to the side, so we can see both the empty prefab and our particle system, and we're going to drag one onto the other, and it will turn blue to tell us that it's been done. Move the hierarchy back to where it was so we can see what's going on, and then we can delete that out, and it's saved itself in here. So now we can actually action it through UScript. So it just makes a bit more room so we can see what we're doing. We're going to load up onHit, which currently has nothing going on inside it apart from a debug collision. So we'll just remove that, get it out of the way. And we're going to come up here, and we're wanting to get a position and rotation. So we want the object that is being hit, so the owner, we want to grab its position in the world. We don't really care about its rotation. What we do want though is its position. And its position is going to be in a vector 3, so we need to add a vector 3 variable. So that's its output. We'll go into that little circle, and then what we're going to do now is actually spawn a prefab, if I could spell it correctly, and it's at the location. And what we're going to use is the position that we've just grabbed off of the owner, and we're going to use that as the spawn location. We'll turn off spawn game objects, we don't need that at the moment, but the prefab name is the one we've just created, so asteroid debris. And then we're going to destroy the object after we've finished. So this will make the asteroid disappear and look like it's exploded into a giant cloud of rocks. So we'll give this a save. I'll go back and we'll give it a try. So now it looks like we're crashing through these rocks, and their bits are twisting off and spinning into space, which looks fantastic. Let's come out of this. We'll go back into UScript. No, it's not the triggering wind collision. It's the player rotation. Yep, this is the one we need to change. We need to change it from on exit to on enter. So rather than the rocket ship leaving the asteroid and it blowing up, because at the moment we're not deleting lives. It's blowing up before we can. Now we have the lives disappearing. There we go. But I don't like this black game over, so let's change that. Back into UScript. And it'll be in the nose lives left section. Print text. Ah, there we are. And we will change that colour to white. Save this script, and we're going to have to do the same thing for the win. So we'll save this and we'll load up win collision as soon as it's finished compiling. There we go, let's give it a try now. There we go, nice bright white game over. Let's try and win this time. We got you won. Great. We need to change this front end though. In Chapter 3 Part 5 we'll be improving our main menu. Transferring over a new texture. This one's going to be a GUI texture, so it's set as a targa. So we'll just copy and paste that into our texture folder. Now I've got the main menu scene loaded. Now if we take a look, there's our banner that we've just introduced. Now we're going to change this to a GUI. We'll leave it as a GUI. And we're going to create a material, so we just apply that, sorry. And we will create a material. And this will be the banner. I'll put MM for main menu so we can just differentiate the materials that are used solely in the main menu. We'll just pop the texture in there. And it's going to be a GUI texture, but that doesn't quite work there, does it? So let's make it unlit transparent. There we go, that's given us the alpha but left the colour in. So that's what we actually want. So we don't like these grey buttons, we're actually going to remove those. So let's nuke them out. So that one's gone, and then that one is gone. So now we currently have nothing. Also have no way of starting a new level. So what we need to do is create a skybox. So we have the same lovely skybox we used previously. And then what we're going to do is we're actually going to create a sphere, and what we're going to do with this sphere is we're actually going to make this sphere into a planet. And what we're going to have is we're going to have our rocket ship orbit round our planet in the bottom left hand corner of the screen. So with the game view available down there, we can see what we're doing. Let's just move the camera slightly further back, down a little bit, move it off to the side, and then we should be able to just scale up our sphere. Let's try 10, seems way too big. Let's try 5. That's, yeah. Okay, let's move the camera back. Okay, that can work. Just move it slightly up and to the right. Make sure we're grabbing the right axis here. kind of... That looks good. I like that. Alright, what we do need though is some light. Seems a bit bright. Don't know if I'm feeling that. No, let's get rid of it. Try point light. That seems a bit nicer. Let's move that a little bit closer. That's better. Right, we're going to create something to use as buttons. No, I don't want a sphere. Oh, no, I meant to delete that. Let's try a cube. We want our buttons back, so there's one. Let's just name these quick. So we'll call this Earth, and we'll call the cube New Game. Right, with that in place, we can now think about our sphere. We want our rocket ship in here as well. We want to have that orbiting the Earth, ready for its next mission to the Moon, which is level 1 in our particular game. So let's get this rocket ship in here. Let's try and manipulate him around, and we want to get him so that he's orbiting this planet. But at the moment he's orbiting it, but it looks like he's swimming along the surface, so let's adjust the scale of the sphere. Change the field of view. No, that's not really going to do it. I think what we're going to have to do is change... If we change the scale, it brings it in closer to its pivot point, which we don't want to do, because we want to have it further away. If we reduce the scale of that, it doesn't look like a planet anymore. It looks like it's orbiting around a beach ball. If we make it too much, it won't orbit round, it will orbit through, won't it? Let's give it a try. No, that's not going to. It's going to orbit around that pivot point and crash into the planet. Let me think about this. Let's remove that, and here's another mesh that I've brought in. I actually took our current mesh that we're using, went back to 3ds Max, and actually moved it away from its pivot point by quite a bit. So we should now be able to, if we just alter this sphere, and we take a look at our rocket ship, you can see its pivot point is a long way away now. So if we change its rotation to there, spin it round, oh, that's quite a long way away from the camera, isn't it? Let's half its scale. No, let's make it 0.1. That seems more likely. If we do it 0.1, and then we take that sphere and scale it out. Oh, wrong way. No, Z. Scale it out until it's almost touching the rocket ship. So if we say 6, 6.3, 6.3 sounds good, and we make all of them 6.3. And then if we now rotate this rocket ship, it should now orbit around the planet. That looks pretty good. Right, what we're going to do is reset its rotation, and we just need to correct some of the placements of other things. So let's take that cube, which is eventually going to be our button, let's bring it a little bit closer into the camera, and across a little bit more. Let's change it to an asteroid. Let's have an asteroid as the button. That sounds good. Let's give it a bit of a random rotation. Let's duplicate it. And this will be our quit button, or our alternate button, depending on whether or not you're doing a web-based game or a standalone game. As we said previously, web-based games, the quit function or the quit script doesn't work. It doesn't do anything. Because if people wanted to quit your game, they would simply leave the web page, I suppose. So in this case, I would use this as a link button to your creator's website. So in this case, it would be to Near Miss Studios. What I'm going to do now is create a plane, and this is going to be the banner for the game title. Let's just rotate this around. Where's it gone? Okay, is this bugged out? What's going on? It appears to have disappeared. Okay, delete it. Try again. Okay, so I need to rotate it facing the camera. Although it doesn't appear to be able to do that if I type it in. I can... Bizarre. Okay, right, it's working now, so we'll scale it down. Keeping an eye in the game view as well. Scale it. Oh, scaling in Y, that's not going to do anything. Let's just move it above the planet so we can see what we're doing, because we're going to use this as a banner across the top of the game view. That seems good. A little bit higher. Kind of want it centralized, to be honest. So let's move it a little bit further over and make it wider. That seems good. Okay. Let's change the material on this to our banner. Oh, we've made it upside down. Okay, so let's rotate this. And where's the angle I want? Where have you gone? Ah, there we are. There we go, that'll do. Why would I think that would have done anything? And why isn't that rotating? Is this a bug that I don't know about? Have I set something incorrectly? That's rotating that, that's fine. Rotating Z's doing the same thing that Y did. And the X is... okay, that's rotating that way. Well, that's confusing. Let's try and... no, Y is turning it around on that pivot point. Okay, not quite sure what's going on, but alright, we'll just do it like that then. Okay, that's... not sure why it's doing that, but we've got it fixed, so we'll keep it like that. Okay, right. So what we're going to do is we're actually just going to move these both a little bit down into the further corner because I want them to look like they're right in the bottom. Rotate. And we want the rocket ship and the planet to be tilted slightly so the rocket ship, as it goes round, it doesn't go round just the equator. It kind of comes in and around. Oh no, we're going to need to rotate around the local. That's not doing the local. I'll have to come down here and do it. There we go. That's what we want to actually rotate around. That's the effect we're looking for. As the main menu is going, we want it to rotate around in that orbit. What we're going to do now, though, is we're going to add the text. That's going to say new game and alternate, whatever it is you've chosen, maybe your quit button. So we're going to use 3D text. And we're going to use our font that we imported earlier, which is the same font as that's on that banner that you see at the top there. We're going to change Hello World to New Game. And we're going to make sure we actually put a space in it. Center it. And then we'll take a look. Reduce the size of the scale to 0.1, and then we'll reduce the font size up, and that gives us a much nicer fidelity. So, nicer, crisper resolution. And we'll just position that over the top. Give it bold and italic just like in the banner. Sway its position out. We'll change the name of the plane to Banner. Make sure we get it the right capitalization. There we go. And then we'll also change the name of the 3D text. Change to News Game. Oh, okay, we have two called New Game. We don't want to name the button, we want the text. We'll add TXT on the end of that, just so we know the difference between the two. Create some more 3D text. Again, we'll zero this. We'll do the same thing we did previously. Let's name this to start with, alt text. We'll center it. We will add our font. We will change the text. I'm going to add question marks here at the moment, because like I said, you can change this to whatever you like. Reduce the scale like we did last time, and then what we're going to do is we're just going to put the same font size in and position this over the top of the bottom one. So what we're going to do now is we're going to create another JavaScript, and we'll name this one Banner MM, main menu designation. And then what we're going to do is we're actually going to drop that on the plane, as that's the item that's going to be used in that script. We'll open it up in Mono. And we want this banner to be delayed before it comes in. We want at least one orbit of the rocket round the planet before this banner pops in. So we don't want it to come in instantly. We want the rocket ship to go round. So what we're going to do is we're going to have an orbit float. We're going to use that to tell the system whether or not we've made at least one orbit. Then we're going to have how fast the banner comes into view. Again, we're going to be another float, and we're going to be able to. Oh, we need to correctly spell float. We'll adjust that in the inspector as we're doing this, and then we'll have banner time as another float. If we can spell float correctly. So the amount of time it takes to actually come in. So we're going to do in an update function, we're going to have an if statement, and we're going to say if we've had more than one orbit, so if orbit is greater than 0, and we're going to use itween, which is the reason why we're doing this in mono. And we're actually going to move it to a position. We're going to move the game object, which in this case is the plane. We're going to move it along the x-axis. The position we're going to move it to is the current position it is at. So the x is. See, we want it to come in. Let's go to there. So 1.5. Let's take a look. 2.1. So we copy that. And that's where we want to come into. And then the time it takes to move down or move to that point is going to be the banner time. And the ease type we're going to use is going to be linear again. We've had an if, so let's have an else as well. We need a way of counting orbit, so we need a way of telling the system that orbit is greater than 1. So we're going to actually have a wait for it. We're going to have that as a function, so a custom function. So let's write that now. And so this will fire every time orbit is 0. So first thing we're going to do is yield, and what we want to do is make a created delay, so wait for seconds. And then the wait for seconds we want is banner in, the time we set the delay in the inspector. Then after that we are going to set orbit to orbit plus 1. And then the wait for it function will no longer be called. And in the update function we will move the game object, so the plane, to that position on the X. So we'll save this. And we'll just slide this out of the way now, because we know that when we play, we've got an error rather than it moving to where I thought it would be. What error we've got? Apparently we've got one too many squirrely brackets. Just make sure we've got the correct amount. That one goes to that one. That one to that one. Okay, no, that looks okay now. Let's close this out and clear. Oh, we've done the same thing again. We've forgotten to capitalize the O in object. Save again. Right, no more bugs. Let's give it a try. And that appeared instantly. And we're getting a lot of cautions. Okay, let's sort this out first, because at the moment we've got everything set to 0. So if we say 2 and 1.25, let's see what that looks like. That comes in kind of fast, doesn't it? Let's adjust this. Still coming in kind of fast. And why are we getting all of these? What is this? Unsupported ease type. Okay. I see. I spelled linear wrong. Let's correct that. And now give it a try and see what it's like. I did save it, didn't I? Yeah, I did. Bump this up to 5 and give it a try. That's taking way too long. I like the speed of it coming in, the time that it takes to arrive. It's just the delay is way too long. Let's delay the 2. That's better. For the time being, that's better.